Okay, welcome back everyone to the podcast. We're doing another Q&A session today. I'm so grateful. I have Sam here who is in the Codependency Alchemy membership, and we're going to dive into something that is alive for her, and I'm excited to move through this topic that she is going to share with us today. Sam, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for your vulnerability and your courage to just allow us to witness to you in this.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I was very excited when you presented this as an option, so I'm more than happy to be here. Okay, thank you. Do you want me to just dive in with what I'm bringing?
Yeah, dive in. Let's hear it.
Okay, it's a lot.
Always.
Yeah, I I got diagnosed a couple years ago with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I really knew something was wrong because in a year's time, I gained like 50 pounds and my whole body was just out of whack. And since then, I've had a lot of issues with trusting doctors and being kind of failed by the Western medical system. And I recently hired an Ayurvedic doctor, a functional medicine doctor, and an acupuncturist, and got some blood work back. And it is not just polycystic ovarian syndrome that is the issue. So I have PCOS, hypothyroidism, heart disease, and they also are contemplating on severe adrenal fatigue. And I have never considered myself to be a sick person, and I don't really feel sick to that extent because all of that sounds so serious. But what it's caused is a lot of questions and concerns and frustration with doctors. Why did it take 3 years for this to happen? A lot of guilt in not treating my body the right way. Just trying to manage a new eating habit when I've suffered from eating disorders in the past. 11 new supplements and 2 prescription drugs introduced into my system while working and while being a holistic practitioner as well, and feeling guilty because I don't really have the motivation to work on my business right now. And I want to, but at the same time, I feel like all of my energy should be focused on healing my own self and my own body. So I just have a lot of mixed and contradictory emotions going on right now. A lot
Yeah.
to digest.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story and what's been a life for you. And I'm hoping that those who are listening to this episode, especially healers or people who work, with energy or any sort of modality like that, how much guilt that we often place on ourselves for not being, quote unquote, fully healed.
Mhm.
And the impact of that and it keeping us from stepping forth in our gifts, right? Stepping forward in our healing practices and the space that we hold for people. The reframe that I want to give you, that I also give to myself, that I've also given to a lot of women who I've worked with, is what if this part, what you would call a break or what you would call stepping away from your business, is actually you stepping more fully into it. So what I mean by that is oftentimes we see focusing on ourselves or doing that inner work and actually tending to our body and what it's showing us as us taking a step back, but it's really us taking a step forward. We're actually allowing ourselves to tune in and hear what our body is trying to communicate with us. It put us in a situation of dis-ease and disharmony so that we can learn how to get out of it. And in that experiencing dis-ease and the getting out of it is actually going to propel us in our business even more. So sometimes the quote unquote stepping away is actually stepping more fully into.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That is funny. It's really funny that you say that because I stumbled across a quote today that said, when you when it's the ending, you've actually just met your new beginning. And it kind of like reminds me of what you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, the first thing that comes to my head when you say that is absolutely not, like, totally unacceptable. But
Mm-hmm.
the more that I sit and I really like think about it, like my body, I've been working since I was 15. I've had a lot of trauma and I've done a lot of healing work, but I've never not worked. I've never not been doing something. I've never just rested. Um, and I've expanded and grown my business this year. And it's really interesting. Every time that I've launched a program or had a new transformation client or something inside of my company this year, I've gotten really sick, like day
Mm-hmm.
of or right after. And I feel like, and I had like this epiphany where I was like, I feel like my body literally is not, it wants to, like my spirit is ready, but my physical form is not at that level and capable of holding that amount of energy and space right now. Like I like every time I have a new transformation client, I get like a severe migraine and I'm down and out for like 2 days post. And I'm like feeling like all of this stuff is probably my body just telling me I need to rest so I can prepare, so I can hold
Mm-hmm.
the amount of energetic space needed for the future.
So I love that you're already aware of that pattern, that after the influx of energy comes in, there's the pattern of the shutting down or like the ailment or whatever that physical response is. That's obviously,
Yeah.
not ideal, but because you know that, like, can you come up with a thing that you do or a couple things that you do that help you anchor that energy in? So I think about like when I blew up on TikTok, or like I think about when I had like an influx of members sign up. It's a lot of energy coming in. And the first thing my body wants to do is get rid of it. It's like, make it stop, make it go away. It's too much. But what I've learned is that like that energy coming in, I'm meant to anchor it down. So it's actually meant to be rooted and moved through our body and down into the earth, right? Like, can we be the channel that anchors that energy down and out? When we're receiving the energy and not doing anything, we're just gonna want to expel it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my friend, one of my best friends, Victoria St. Fleur of Root and Branch, she gave me like this amazing analogy of like a balloon, right? So like when that energy is coming in, can I see it as my invitation to expand and like make the balloon just a little bit bigger, right? So it's like part of the work is not staying the same. Something's coming in, inviting us to stretch, but instead of actually stretching intentionally and consciously, the unconscious parts of us, the shadow parts of us, the wounded parts of us are like, this is too much,
Yeah.
need to get rid of as soon as possible.
They're like ready with the little like poker, like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. It's just such a daunting question. It's like, I will say this, I was working 7 days a week and I quit one of my jobs. So there's no excuse. I went from working 7 days a week at my like normal people jobs to four. So I have 3 full days now where I could choose one of those days to solely see clients and then spend the rest of my time during the week relaxing and healing, and nurturing my own soul, or vice versa. Take one full rest day
Mm.
where I just pour back into my own cup. So it's certainly possible. Um, yeah, it's definitely possible. I had the image when you said that too of like a light bulb. When it gets too hot, it shatters. But a way
Mhm.
to prevent that is like a grounding wire. Like, you know,
Mhm.
those outlets that you plug into the wall and then you plug the lamp into that outlet. So it's like figuring out what my grounding wire, my outlet, what tools will serve me best. And I think the biggest one that comes to mind is actually like giving myself an opportunity to feel the amount of like deep like grief and sadness that I have that's like just masked with disassociation and anger because I'm really mad at my body and at the medical system for feeling like they failed me. So that's like, if I can move past that, then yeah, absolutely I can ground.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Let's work with that part. I really relate to that so much. As someone who spent more years than not in my lifetime on birth control and have spent the last 3 years trying to conceive, there was a moment where I felt extreme anger. Like someone should have advocated for me. Like, why wasn't anyone advocating for me? Why did a doctor tell me that this was the thing that I needed? And how can Google say that, like, this doesn't affect fertility at all when I've taught my body quite literally how not to make a baby for the majority of my life, So I get that anger and frustration with a system that we've placed on a pedestal.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. It's like worshipped. It's really
Mm-hmm.
and you look crazy. That's another thing too. Is like I was told just lose weight, eat avocados, just do a Dr. Oz cleanse. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just like the most absurd, dumb things. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's heavy. That's very, very alive for sure.
So leading with that, then, is it not forgiving this? What if it's not forgiving the system? What if it's forgiving ourselves? Right? I needed to forgive myself for not advocating for myself. Right? I needed to forgive like myself for not knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
It's easy to blame something outside of us, and not to say that there isn't some form of responsibility. I was a teenager, so like I needed, like a parent needed to sign off on this. Like my guardian should have, protected me from this. It's easy to go and blame, but where is that blaming actually keeping us from fully releasing, from fully experiencing our liberation, because something else is holding it? Like right now, the doctors in the medical system are holding that power over you. So I'm going to invite you to just tap into that part of you that is angry at that system. And where does that live in your body?
It lives like immediately like right at the conjunction of my throat and my chest.
Yeah.
It's very right in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Lumpy.
And if you tap into that part, if I am the medical system, if I am that doctor or doctors, going back to that time, what do you want to say to them, knowing what you know now?
Immediately I want to say you're wrong
Yeah.
and how dare you.
Yeah.
And I get like immediate images of just walking out of the room. Like it's not worth the time to be frustrated. Like just walk out. Um, there's one doctor in particular that comes to my mind that was another female, and I really have like a lot of anger toward her because it's like she's she was a beautiful woman and she was kind, but she's just stereotypically healthy. She was petite, thin, a doctor, and I've struggled
Mm-hmm.
with weight my whole life. And I'm coming saying there's something wrong, a medical issue that I think is female related. And she's like, just lose weight. And I'm like, are you dumb? Like,
Yeah.
are you looking stupid? Like, obviously, if it was that easy, then like I wouldn't be here. So what is your problem? Like, do you just not like thick women, or are you
Mm-hmm.
incompetent?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. It's like
Yeah.
the medical system was incompetent
Mm-hmm.
and discriminatory. because of an assumption that like she made. Yeah. It's really
Beautiful.
angry. Like
Yeah.
I'm very angry for sure. And I'm really mad at myself for not, like I just feel like I knew in my gut what was wrong and I knew that they weren't going to do anything. So I'm mad at myself for continuing to go to that one healthcare provider in particular instead of not seeking alternative medicine for
Mm-hmm.
so long. Like I feel sad that I felt so trapped in a loop that that was my only option.
Mm-hmm.
And in my heart, when I really think about it and I like close my eyes and I put myself back in that room, it's like my whole gut instinct was like, this isn't the place you're supposed to be getting an answer. And instead
Mm-hmm.
of just like listening to my gut, I chose to be small and hear what this professional had to say, when in fact I think like women are super intuitive. Like if you know, then like you know. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, why not just have faith that my body was going to lead me in the right direction? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
mistrust has caused me to continue to self-sabotage, because it's like I get the intuitive hits and I continue to have that doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that lack of self-trust is so, so deep as we're healing. I mean, codependency is giving our power away, right? Our power is in the hands of someone else. How we feel about ourselves is in the hands of someone else. So right now, me asking you to go back to, what would you say to that person lets that part of you speak that anger out. But now I want you to imagine you, present day Sam, going
Yeah.
into that room and being with that part of you. And what do you want to tell her? Because this is building that self-trust.
Yeah. I I mean, I immediately get emotional just thinking about it, but I feel like I would actually be much kinder than angry. And I think that I would just get between myself and the doctor, even if the doctor thought it was weird, and I would get on my level if I was sitting down and I would look me in the eyes and I would say, this isn't the place you're supposed to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to trust your gut. You're strong, confident, beautiful. You're not unhealthy. And because of that, because you're gaining weight and you're not unhealthy, that's why something's wrong. And if they're not willing to listen, then we'll go somewhere that will. There are doctors who hear you, will run more tests, who don't think you're crazy, who are interested in alternative medicines that a chain provider is not capable of providing. And it's not worth holding resentment toward this doctor because she's just doing her job as well. This medical system that she works for is not allowed to do those certain tests to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go find something that works better for both of us, for all of us.
How does that part of you respond?
Definitely like melancholy about it, you know. I'm such an information seeker, so it's like an ease, like an over, like a sense of peace comes,
Mm-hmm.
um because I like having a plan in place. So having the full picture, it makes it easier to make the decision to trust the gut,
Mm-hmm.
trust my gut. And there's definitely still a little bit of resentment, but there's a more, I feel more like at home. I feel
Mm-hmm.
more like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's okay to admit that we were wrong. It's okay that we were frustrated. And, you know, is it really worth holding so much resentment toward a stranger who, to my awareness, was doing her best? So
Mm-hmm.
let's just focus on ourselves and leave the room.
Yeah. And can you imagine the both of you leaving the room?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If I had had the full picture, yeah, I would have walked out of the table and I wouldn't have been angry with that
Yeah.
doctor. I would have just left because that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it seems unfortunate that we have these moments like what you just had right now, where that compassion was able to flood in and that part of you was like, and you were able to lead that part of you. It seems unfortunate that it happens after the fact, but where is it actually fortunate? Like, because of the experience, you got to
Mhm,
meet a part of you that maybe you haven't met for a while that is angry,
mhm.
and that you got to lead that part of you. Like, I start to see these moments of like tightness and contraction and um circumstances that are less than ideal as something that we want to avoid. But instead, can we see it as like, oh, this is actually something that I got to experience so I could have this moment right here?
Yeah,
Because you're never going to walk into a doctor's office again. And you're probably not going to walk into a lot of situations ever again without that confidence and that trust built in from not trusting.
yeah, yeah. It's such a weird thing. Like,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel like like saying like, how can you turn mistrust into like a positive backside of the coin because everything has an opposite side. But yeah, I mean just in that small exercise, I think back, I was 24, I'm 27 when that happened. And um I'm just thinking about how interesting your early 20s are, that
Mhm.
every year you're just kind of like fundamentally a different person.
Yes.
um and as I'm getting older, I had a lot of like resentment toward younger me just for being like so dumb. And now like I seeing myself through those eyes and like looking at like little 23, 24-year-old me on a doctor's table and being like, we're only 3 years older, but we're a lot wiser. Let's
Mhm.
go. Like she was just naive. I mean, you're still like a kid, and it just
Mhm.
makes me so sad to think that like I even recently and like my whole life that I've spent so much time just like hating myself and being mistrusting when there was an opportunity to just show kindness and be like,
Mhm.
oh, the reason I'm frustrated right now is because I've never experienced this before and I don't know how to react. The same
Mhm.
way a 5-year-old would have a told
Mhm.
how to react.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's such a gift when we get to allow ourselves that, because you had said initially, how do you navigate? And then you kind of off trailed for a moment, but giving grace
Mhm.
is something you said, and I like circled it. It's that is it. How can I give myself grace? And you quite literally just had an experience with that, because before you were hot, right? You were hot and like angry, rightfully so. And it's hard to see past that until you actually step in the room with that part of you, allow it to be angry, right? I was like, what do you want to say to that doctor? What do you want to say to those doctors? Let her say something like, no, you're incompetent. Like, you don't know, you're wrong. Like, let her say what she didn't get to say, which makes sense why you felt it in your like chest throat, right? That like that part.
Mhm.
It showed up there because you didn't get to say something that you didn't know then, but you do know now.
Yeah,
And the judgment is that you didn't say something with information though that you didn't have.
I didn't even think of it like that. That is so good.
You didn't have that information then. So you're judging yourself for not knowing something that you learned years down the line. I can't get mad at myself for taking birth control when I was 15 years old because I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing. I thought every time I bled, I was having my period. I didn't know that I wasn't actually having a full cycle. I didn't know that. If you're listening and you don't know that, that's a thing. If you're on birth control and you're bleeding, you're not actually experiencing a menstrual cycle. I didn't know that. And I was so angry at myself, at my mom, at my dad, at the person who prescribed it. But I didn't know that then. I
Yeah,
can't be mad at myself for not knowing what I didn't know.
that is such good foresight, like 2020 vision.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, when I think back and look at those experiences, I'm like, of course I knew that that doctor was incompetent. Like she was just not helping and she was being stupid. But no, I didn't. Because if I did, I wouldn't have left the room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have I wouldn't have made a second doctor's
Yeah.
appointment.
You trusted her
Yeah,
because you had no reason not to at the
yeah,
time. But
yeah,
as you grew, as you learned, as you experienced more, as you
yeah.
got more information, you're like, wait,
Seems shady. This is weird.
yeah, yeah, this doesn't add up. You're
Hmm.
starting to put all the puzzle pieces together. Now you have a different reality.
Hmm.
And I think our minds can trick us into believing that that reality looked a certain way, but it didn't look that way. And it certainly didn't feel that way.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. That's beautiful. So let me ask this question, because what I've noticed with my current behavior and pattern is that I do trust the doctor that
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing right now. I think that current me and little me is so antsy to just feel better
Mm-hmm.
that I've started to self-sabotage a little bit because I was prescribed these new medications and supplements, but it's only I'm gonna sound like a crazy person. It's only been like maybe like a month and a half, and I know like cognitively that I probably won't notice changes for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm not seeing immediate changes, that inner part of me is still getting like super triggered and is like, fuck this, like just eat the donut, even though you're not supposed to have gluten right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares? Like, this doctor said all these things and he sounded really cool, and like all of the lab work said XYZ, but like nothing's really changing. So do we really want to trust him? Or yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling in a very strange place. You've given me tools, so I feel like I technically have the answer. I don't know. I feel in limbo, like
Yeah.
chronic limbo.
Yeah. I mean, you already know that you need more time to get more answers. And um, okay, so let's start with like the donut. What story gets to be validated when you do that? Like when you eat the thing that you're not supposed to eat while you're getting yourself back on track.
The first thing that pops into my head is it validates the story that I don't deserve to feel my best.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that's what the donut represents. The donut doesn't represent that, like, the what I think you're attaching to. The self-sabotage is I need to validate a story, and the story is I can't feel good.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
That brings clarity.
And then with, supplements and things of that nature, yes, it is going to take time. I had to do 3 months of acupuncture before I actually started seeing, actually it was like 4 months of acupuncture and that's going every week. So I was
Yeah,
like going often before I even started seeing these like shifts where I'm like, oh my gosh, but happens, it's compounding, right? It's these little compounding moments that happen over time. It seems like, oh, just in month 4, it's like it's all back online. It happened overnight, but it's like, no, it was literally like these little, smaller moments that added up that pushed the domino over, right?
yeah,
However, I will also say for me, there was a time where I was, you know, feeling like one of the supplements was like a no for me in that moment, right? So that takes listening and tuning in. And maybe I was wrong, or maybe I was right. I don't know. But all I knew was that like I needed to follow that and communicate that to my acupuncturist, right? Who was like, we're always going to listen to your body. If it's a no, then we're going to pivot for right now. And, and until I came back and decided that it was a yes, right? After a month. So, can you lean into trusting, right? That theme yourself, and can you have the awareness of the part of you that wants to self-sabotage by asking it, if I say no to this, like what story gets to be validated when I say none of this works? And it's unfortunate that we live in a time where if it's not instant, then it's not working.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good perspective on it. What are your top three favorite questions to ask for tuning into your body? I'm a Manny Gen also, and I love knowledge and learning, and like I do best when I'm not solely up to my own devices. I like play off of others.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the first questions I ask myself is like, if I'm experiencing anything that feels like, if I feel crunchy or sticky or lethargic or lost, first thing, where does this live in my body? Where is this feeling living in my body? What's the story?
Yes.
What does it need from me? I go straight into somatics. And what I love about those three questions, and what does it need is maybe the last one, but you could sometimes, if the story is loud, if you can hear the story loud and clear, start there. The story is, I'm bad because I ate the donut. Where does that live in my body? Where does that thought live in my body? Where does that experience live in my body? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And then what does it need from me? Because our thoughts, if we're just left alone with our thoughts, we're just going to spiral.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember that the thought is the access point for us to tap into the body so that we can then identify what it is that our body needs right now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. I am in active learning of listening to my physical body. I told my acupuncturist that my abdomen feels numb.
Yeah.
Like she's like, how does your lower tummy feel? And I was like, I don't know. So, and it's not my womb. It's like, it's all of those other organs, like I've done a lot of womb work as a woman, that trauma, but like, what about my small and large intestine that are responsible for like your brain and gut health? Like, what about all of these other beautiful parts of your body that live inside of that portion of body? So, yeah, I think these are really great questions, and I just need to, I don't want to make it so rigid, but like I definitely think that there's an importance, for my case in particular, to like set time aside daily, if not on those days that I have off, and like intentionally just check in with my body and see how we're doing.
I love that you're bringing that up, because it was something that stood out to me earlier and I didn't get to speak on it, but we get to wrap it around to that. And it's probably a great ending point too for the episode. But I thought it was interesting how you're like, okay, I can have one day where I can, fully rest, or maybe there's 2 days where I can fully rest. Like, we get to have that every day though. Not all day, maybe every day, but in my calendar, I have resource for the first 2 hours of the day. Like, resource gets to, because I'm again, Manny Jen with you right there. Like, if it's yoga every day for 2 hours, like I will rebel and be like, I don't want to do yoga. I'm not doing it. But resource allows me to ask myself that morning, what do I need this morning? What do I need today to resource myself? Maybe sometimes that looks like reading a book on my patio. Sometimes that looks like going for a run with my dog. Sometimes that means taking a long shower. Sometimes that means sleeping in, you know?
Yeah. Oh, really like that because I'm the
Yeah.
exact same way where like I really truly do crave routine and structure. But
Mhm.
the second I make like and Monday's leg day and then Tuesday we're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
everyone's like, how's your list going? And I was like, I've done literally none of it. So
It's actually a disservice to me usually. Like, unless I'm like, I just trained for a 10K. That was a little bit
yeah.
different, but it's hard. If you give me a schedule, sometimes it's great, but a lot of times it's not. Like, I turn into a rebel. Like, I turn into like my
Yeah.
Like my Aquarius sun comes out and it's like, watch me not do it. Like, because you said I have to run today, I'm not going to run today.
Yeah.
But if it's like resource, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do today? Like, what do I want to take a bath this morning? Like, no matter what, I'm taking this time to pour into me. That's what's important. And I think that we don't give ourselves that. We give ourselves one day, like you were saying, but really, like, can you carve out the last 2 hours of your day every day? Or the first 2 hours? Like, it doesn't have, not just
Yeah.
not 15 minutes, not 30 minutes, like 2 hours where it's like, you're not
Dedicate.
on your phone, you're not watching TV, you're not dissociating, like you're doing something that is soul nourishing,
I just
resourcing.
had the biggest epiphany while you were saying this. I think one of the reasons I've felt so stuck and guilty is that I have separated my business. I'm a Reiki practitioner and hypnotherapist. So I am an energy healer. And I have completely divided my life. And I've said, I am this. And then I'm also this. I have a normal people job to supplement my income while I'm building a business. And I love it. I sell diamonds. I'm a jeweler 4 days a week, which is super
Yes.
fun. But it's like I have completely divided my life that like on my days off from my normal people job, I've like not been allowed to be a hypnotherapist and Reiki practitioner.
Mm,
Said that, I had this remembrance of something that I can't remember who said it, and it's very common, but like your business is an extension of you. Like you
mhm,
directly reflect your business and your business directly reflects you. So like if I'm blatantly waking up last minute, actively disassociating, rebelling against my to-do list, choosing to not pour into my cup because it ultimately is a choice,
mhm,
um, then obviously I don't feel like running my business because it's a reflection of me and I'm in this weird like floaty space where nothing's important. But like if I pour into myself and I set time aside and I check in and I just see what feels good, like, do I have to do a live or can I just make a post? Like
mhm.
looking at it that way, that definitely breathes life back into that part of me. That, yeah.
I feel like for me, it was the perfect balance of masculine and feminine, right? The masculine is
Yeah.
providing such a loose structure, but a structure nonetheless, right? Resource.
Yeah.
Feminine gets to decide how she plays in that.
I love that.
So even on like business days, right? Business day, but your feminine gets to decide how she plays in that.
Yes. Yes. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Cool.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and allowing us to have this conversation. I felt so seen in so much of what you shared. And, I've experienced so many things similarly. So thank you for allowing me to see you in that because it allowed me to see me in it as well. And yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
No, I love you and your time. So I'm very grateful that I even got this opportunity and you're seriously such the best listener. The alchemy wizard. Every time I have a doubt of like how's she gonna flip this one, and you just do it every time. So thank you for bringing a flashlight to my shadowy corner of the room. I really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just the Scorpio rising in me. It's just natural, which is great.
I'm a
Thank you.
Scorpio sun, so
Yes.
I love it.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.